Hey, what's up everyone? My name's Chris Winter, and in this video, I'm going to do an in-depth review on the brand new Canon T7i or 800D. By the way guys, if you didn't know already, I'm currently giving away either a Canon 77D or a Nikon D5600 to one lucky subscriber. So all you need to do to enter is hit that subscribe button. And also guys, if you haven't seen it yet, definitely make sure to check out my brand new list that I just made. The top 5 best DSLRs under $800. Now, the Canon T7i makes it, but it doesn't come in at number 1. So if you want to see what does, I'll put a link in the description box below under this video. You can take a look. But anyway, let's review this brand new camera. So let's start this review off by taking a look at the build quality and features on this new Canon T7i. Now, if you've never used a DSLR before, the T7i might seem like quite a large camera, but in fact, it's actually quite small compared to most DSLRs. Just for comparison's sake, here's a Canon 70D. When you put it up next to the Canon T7i, it really does feel quite a lot heavier, and this camera here feels nice and light. And to me, that's a great thing. Because the T7i is a little bit smaller, I think that this means that more people are going to be more likely to take it out and take more photos. And for beginners and intermediates, that's the most important thing. You don't want a really heavy DSLR stopping you from going out and becoming a better photographer. Now, I used the Canon T6i a lot last year, and not too much has changed on the body on the T7i. Buttons are exactly where you'd want them to be and easy enough to find. Like I said in my review on the Canon 77D, however, I do wish the buttons were a little bit more pronounced because they're a little bit flat and hard to find at the moment when you've got your eye up to the viewfinder. Now, at the top of the camera here, you will notice this is a little bit different to its bigger brother, the Canon 77D. On the right of the camera, we have your main mode dial. Essentially, this is where you can change different settings that you want, whether it be shooting in automatic or manual modes. One thing you will note compared to the Canon 77D is that on the mode dial, we're missing that mode dial lock. This isn't a huge deal to me, but it's one thing to be careful for so you don't accidentally change your settings. And at the top here, we have a dedicated record button, which is nice to see as well. So overall, the build quality is nice on this Canon T7i. It's definitely a smaller build than most DSLRs, which could be a big bonus if you like to travel or walk around with a lighter camera. By the way guys, let me know in the comments down below if you could win a Canon 77D or Nikon D5600, which one would it be? And I'll take a look at your comments. Let's now turn the camera around and take a look at the rear LCD screen on the back of your DSLR. So as with last year's model, the T7i has a brilliant LCD screen. I think Canon actually make the best LCD screens out of any camera company at the moment. The screen on the Canon T7i is fully articulating, which means you can flip it up and down and to the side. This is a really great feature because it means you can take your screen out, and if you want to take a photo from up high, you can see the screen, or down low, you can actually just flip it rather than having to kind of struggle and look through the viewfinder. And if you're a YouTuber or vlogger, it's great as well because you can actually flip the screen fully around so you can actually see yourself, which is what I'm doing right now. This is great for getting your composition right and making sure you're in the frame correctly. Now, a little tip here, which I actually use, if you get one of these little cheap $5 remotes off eBay and Amazon, you can actually start and stop your recording with the Canon T7i, which means you can do it all pretty much by yourself. Now, one thing that I didn't mention before is that this rear LCD screen is actually a touch screen. Now, this might not seem like a big deal, but it really does make using the camera a breeze. Rather than having to use the dial on the side here to change your settings, you can simply use your finger to quickly change what you want. It's very similar to actually using your smartphone, and the screen here is very responsive. You don't actually have to press down very hard, so you can simply tap and you're good to go. Now sure, this might seem like a beginner's feature, but I found myself using it a lot to move quickly through the menus. Not only that, but with the Canon T7i's new dual pixel autofocus system, all you need to do is simply tap on the screen, and wherever you tap is going to smoothly and cinematically come into focus. It's pretty fantastic. By the way guys, if you haven't seen it yet, definitely make sure to check out that top 5 list of the best cameras for under $800. The link is in the description box below under this video. Speaking about autofocus, while we're at it, let's talk about that brand new dual pixel autofocus in the Canon T7i. Now this has been a feature in higher end cameras like the Canon 70D, 80D and 7D Mark II, and this is one of my favorite features. A few years ago, getting good quality video autofocus in a DSLR was pretty much unheard of. No one was doing it well until the dual pixel autofocus system came out with Canon. So how well does it work in the T7i? Fantastically. It's almost flawless. Face tracking works really well, and as an example, you can see that I'm using it right now, and even without anyone behind the camera, I can smoothly stay in focus. You can also use the spot tracking mode, which works really well as well. All you need to do is press your finger on the screen, on the object, and whatever is in that little square is going to smoothly come into focus. You can even do focus pulls by simply pressing on the screen. And Now, I'm actually pretty surprised that Canon put in the dual pixel system into their lower cameras. It's kind of something that they've kind of not done over the last few years, trying to keep it in the higher end markets. But good work putting it into the Canon T7i. I think a lot of people are really going to like using it. So props to you on that one, Canon. So if you're looking to buy the Canon T7i, and you probably are if you're watching this video, you've probably looked at other cameras in similar price ranges. So what are the competitors to the Canon T7i? Well, the obvious camera that most people will be looking at is this one right here, the brand new Canon 77D. This was released at the same time as the T7i, and it's a fantastic camera. It's got the same dual pixel autofocus, but it's also got a few minor differences. Firstly, we've got this LCD screen on the top. Now, this gives you a little bit more information without having to look through the viewfinder. We've also got this scroll wheel on the back right here. To be honest, these aren't huge differences between the two, and the T7i is a smaller camera. So if you can live without those two features, the T7i will be good for you. You might also be looking at last year's model, the Canon T6i. I reviewed this camera a lot last year, and it was a great beginner's DSLR. Now, it doesn't have that dual pixel autofocus. Instead, it's got hybrid autofocus. And personally, for me, if I was choosing between the T6i and the T7i, even if I saved a bit of money, I'd go for the T7i. On the upper end, you could look at the Canon 70D or 80D. This is the Canon 70D right here, and I actually own two of these, and they're a fantastic camera. And the Canon 80D is a step up again. For beginners to intermediates, the T7i will be more than capable. But if you really want a great camera, go for the 80D. On the Nikon side, you might be looking at a couple of different cameras. Firstly, you might look at this one right here. This is the Nikon D3400. Or you might even be looking at this one right here, the Nikon D5600. Both of these cameras were released in the last few months, and they're very nice. The D5600 is the most similar and also has a fully articulating screen. Now, if you've never used a Nikon DSLR, it might take you a little while to get used to, but again, both of these cameras are quite good, although I'd still give the advantage to the Canon T7i. Let's talk about video now on the Canon T7i. Normally, if people ask me which camera I'd recommend for beginner cinematographers or videographers, I'd say something like a Canon T3i or T4i. But these days, I'm going to recommend the Canon T7i. And that's because it's actually packed with a lot of good video features. We've now got 1080p at 60 frames per second, which, to be fair, Canon, that took way too long to be introduced into these cameras. That means you can get some nice slow motion in post. Sure, there's no 4K video recording, but I wouldn't trade that for the great dual pixel autofocus in video. Like I said before, it works fantastically. Especially for beginners to video who aren't used to manually focusing like a lot of us are, having that dual pixel autofocus means that they can pretty much pick up this camera, point it where they need to be, and it's going to be in focus. And that's actually a really nice thing. On the side of the camera, we have a dedicated microphone jack, which means you can actually add a microphone like a shotgun mic on top of the camera, which is something I'd recommend. But again, we're missing a headphone jack. Canon, come on, you guys need to include these headphone jacks in these DSLRs because a lot of people are actually using these for video making. So in the next iteration, please include headphone jacks on your lower end models. We've also got HDR video mode now in the T7i, and I'm really happy to see that we've got time-lapse mode included now as well. If you're a vlogger, that's going to make it really easy to get nice time lapses rather than having to use an intervalometer. So overall, I think this is a great little camera for up-and-coming cinematographers. So let's quickly talk about the burst mode on the Canon T7i, and I'm happy to say that it's had a nice upgrade to 6 frames per second. That's actually pretty quick for a camera under $750, and just for reference sake, it sounds a little bit like this. Pretty impressive. Now that should be fast enough for most sports and some wildlife shooting. Autofocus is also really good on this Canon T7i, although I did find it struggled a little bit in very low light conditions. So overall, as with the Canon 77D, I think that this T7i is a real winner. Whereas last year with the Canon T6i, where they left out a few different options, I think that with the Canon T7i and the 77D, this one here is feature packed, and it might even be a little bit of competition for the Canon 70D and 80D. This here is a winner. That was my quick review of this Canon T7i, a really good camera. If you guys haven't done it yet, definitely make sure to subscribe to go into the draw to win a Canon 77D or a Nikon D5600. And also definitely make sure to check out my top 5 list of the best cameras for under $800. This camera makes it, but it doesn't come in at number 1. So if you want to check it out, that link will be in the description box below under this video. Hope you have a fantastic day, happy shooting, and I'll see you next time. Bye.